All right. It's really great seeing all of you guys here. I was just telling them, I know everyone on the video says the same thing. I don't know how there's so many people here at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. So first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to Grace and Run and Dalen that's not here for having me at this talk, but mainly for the stress and nervousness of this talk, and I actually lost weight doing this. You guys should think of marketing this as a weight loss program, by the way. Yeah. So I'm here today to talk to you guys about the theme Hidden. So my name is Kevin, and I am a serial entrepreneur. Today's talk is about hidden. So hidden is described as to conceal from sight or to conceal from knowledge. So a lot of things that I'm going to talk to you guys today are things that are not usually in plain sight, things that you have to go find, things that I had to go learn the hard way, things that I'm so much better because I learned it eventually. So we live in an instant gratification age, right? Now the internet is immediate. Google, you type anything, you get it right away. Have you guys realized even Google now has searches for you guys even before you think you know it, right? So basically, what I find the value of hidden is that when you find things or when you go out and search for certain things, it holds more value. When you go search for certain things and when you find it, you remember that lesson a lot more as well. Okay? So one of the best places to start is why. So although this is my first Creative Mornings, I can almost bet that a lot of you guys know this concept already. How many of you guys know Simon Sinek's theory of why? I bet most of you. For those that don't, let me explain, okay? So Simon Sinek is an author, and his video on TED is one of the most second popular videos of all time. So if you guys don't know it, I'll explain it, but you guys should definitely go back and check the whole video out. So Simon says that successful companies start with why. Before you start a company, before you even move outwards into marketing, you have to understand your why. So let me explain. So he created this thing called the golden circle, okay? In this golden circle, as you see, in the inside is your why, it goes outside your how, and then your what's. Successful companies start from the inside. So what are your whys, okay? So your whys can be your cause, your belief, your purpose, your goals. What makes it authentic to you? What is your goal? If you find your goal, people latch onto that because people want to believe in something, right? Then your hows are your actions to realize that belief, okay? So how, it could be in the terms of price, it could be in terms of features, in a unique selling proposition. What is your how? How do you realize your why, okay? And your what's. What are your results of your why and hows, and what are the final products that you put out into this world, okay? So let me explain. So people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it, okay? This single phrase has made all the difference in the way I do business nowadays. It used to be when you motivate externally, what happens is, what happens when you inspire externally is you do it through price wars, you do it through marketing, you do it through promotions, but that's a very short fix. If you inspire internally, you get loyalty, and that is very different. With loyalty, you spend a lot less in your marketings. Your customers believe in what you believe, and that is that makes the difference between a successful company and someone that tries and spends a lot in marketing, okay? So when your customers believe what you believe, like I said, you inspire from within. When your beliefs coincide, you get loyalty. And what does loyalty buy you, right? You know that gut feeling when you're in love or when you know something it's right, but you can't just put a finger on it? That's the same thing as loyalty. Loyalty is when customers come back to you each and every time, but they don't really quite know it, but because your values and their values coincide, right, they keep coming back to you, okay? It's a very subconscious thing as well. When beliefs coincide, customers go to great lengths to do business with you. Even if your product isn't the cheapest, doesn't have the best feature, one of the best examples is Apple. Most of us are iPhone users, and none of us would even think of jumping onto another platform, right? That's because with Apple, we believe in what they believe. They believe in challenging the status quo, and a lot of us latch onto that, and we feel that, okay? When our beliefs coincide, we go to great lengths, and not because the product is better as well, sometimes. It's because it's a symbol for what we personally believe in. Human beings have an innate sense of belonging. So we want to feel as part of a society. And this is cross-culture, cross-races. Everyone in the world feels the same way, right? So when you find something that you believe in and that you coincide with, people sort of latch onto that, okay? So here are some samples of good companies that have really good whys and we believe in. So I was talking to you about Apple. So Apple think different, right? So they believe in challenging the status quo. And they believe it, so we believe it. Walmart, save money, live better. It's a very simple phrase. I'm not sure how many of you guys know what Walmart is. So Walmart is a huge discount store in the US. So they bring products down to a mass market and make it very affordable. So in Walmart, you're able to buy a lot of things rather cheaply. So most of the mass middle America are able to afford it and have better lives. So it's very, very simple for them. FedEx, when there is no tomorrow, right? So you guys all know what FedEx is, right? Okay. So with FedEx, what happens here is when tomorrow isn't even an option, when you have to get something there now, who do you think of? FedEx. Disneyland, the happiest place on earth. It's simple. Have you guys been to Disneyland? Yeah? It is the happiest place on earth. It's not only happy for the customers, the staff all believe it. When you go there, everyone's on crack. Everyone's like really, really happy. Yeah. So motivation isn't only for customers. If your staff believes it, and if they buy into your belief, and if your beliefs coincide, you have better staff as well. They go above and beyond for you. Nike's no bullshit approach, right? So it's just do it. Okay. So the reason why I started explaining my whys is so that I could share my whys with you. So I started my journey pretty early on. When I was 19 years old, my why was I wanted to do something big. I wanted to do something impactful. I wanted to change people's lives. So at that point in time, when I was 19, my goal was I wanted to be a photographer. But I didn't want to be just a regular run-of-the-mill photographer here in Asia. I wanted to do a lot more. So when I was 19, I made the decision to go to Hollywood. Growing up in Asia, when you read magazines and stuff, celebrities only exist on like glossy magazines, TV shows, movies. They were like the furthest thing possible. Like in my realm of possibility, working with celebrities or rubbing shoulders with celebrities were that far corner on that grid, right? So I decided to make that happen. When you're young and foolish, who knows? So when I was 20, I took off to Hollywood, didn't have very much money, didn't really know anyone there, didn't have any contacts, didn't really have a place to stay. But when you're young, all those are just minor details. So the first thing that I learned, and that's a very big lesson, was that success doesn't come easy or quickly, right? And I think this is one of the biggest factors that demoralizes a lot of younger entrepreneurs. They start, they fail, and then they give up. But success takes a long time. It took me almost 5 years to get into the entertainment industry. During that time, I shot a lot of advertising campaigns, and I actually got really good at it. So in terms of advertising, I started shooting for a lot of big brands. I really got rather successful at just shooting advertising. So this was something I shot for Mercedes. This is one of the new F1 cars. This is a German car wax brand. This was for a baseball apparel company. But all this while, I didn't lose sight of my goal. The goal was still to be a celebrity photographer, right? one of the first persons that I ended up shooting was actually this girl, Kiara Chaplin, right? So let me introduce you who this is. So Kiara is actually the granddaughter of Charlie Chaplin. Do you guys know Charlie Chaplin? Right? I'm sure you do. So Kiara grew up in Europe, and she was a rather famous model then. She was shot by all the list of top photographers in the world. Like when I was growing up, these were the photographers I would read about in magazines and books. So that set the bar really, really high for me. But when it came time for me to shoot this, I'm actually glad it did because of the pressure, it made me over-prepare. It made me plan. It made me lock down every single detail of the shoot. So I'm actually really happy for the way it turned out. Not bad for a noob, I guess, at that time. So shortly after, I started shooting a lot more. So these were the kind of things that I shot. I started shooting a lot of celebrity campaigns. Elijah Wood, Christina Milian. You guys know Snoop Dogg? That was a fun shoot. So I shot people like Alice Cooper, Justin Bieber. It was really fun because this was really what I wanted to do, and for a long time, because it took me such a long time to get there, when I finally got there, When I finally got there, it felt like I belonged right there. It was something that I wanted for such a long time. So these were different campaigns that I've shot. Let me show you some of the images that I have. So anywhere from Playboy bunnies, Playboy spreads, to Vogue magazine. I've got tons of celebrity gossip if you guys want, but that will take a whole 20-minute talk by itself, okay? So this was an album cover for Brian McKnight. So these are some of the people that I had a pleasure of working with along my journey. This company was one of the things that cut my teeth in business. My production company has been in business, I think, right now for about 20 years. And a lot of stuff that I learned through this company. It taught me, tenacity. It taught me bookkeeping skills. It taught me marketing. And I didn't really have any formal training, so this was my best way of learning. I didn't go to school. A lot of stuff I learned the hard way. I learned through real life. I learned through making things work, failing, and just doing it again. Now that we're at this point, the next thing that I want to share with you guys are, you are a failure. Okay, that's a huge hidden fact. Okay, before you start throwing your coffees and pens at me, let me explain. Okay, so everyone fails. As an entrepreneur, you don't succeed the first time. I don't think there is a single entrepreneur on earth that started a company and made everything work the first time around, right? So being an entrepreneur means learning to fail and learning to fail often. Okay, many are really afraid that they don't even try. So this is one of my favorite quotes by J.K. Rowling. So J.K. Rowling is the girl that wrote the Harry Potter series. Okay, so it's impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might not as well lived at all, in which case you fail by default. So living is failing. Big lesson. If you learn this early, when you do start companies, when you do attempt something, and when you do fail, you almost expect it. You're not as bummed out when it does happen, right? So the other thing that I learned is fail big, fail often. So through this talk, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a lot of quotes. These quotes I feel inspire me on a day-to-day basis. In my office, I have these quotes all over the office, and whenever I walk around, it's constant motivation for me as well. It keeps these thoughts in my head. So these are the quotes that sort of surface more than others, so I feel like I want to share these with you, okay? So Richard Branson, right? Fail big, fail often. So what does this mean? How do you fail big? Do you guys know? Try big, right? So the only way to fail big is to try big. And the only way to fail often is to try often. So if you try big and try often, even if you're the unluckiest person on earth, there's the law of statistics, right? 1 out of 10 will eventually hit, right? So you just have to keep trying. I think for me, this is what I did. I started a lot of companies through my entire career. Some succeeded, some failed. So these were the companies that I started. We started a lot of different things, from modeling agencies to creative agencies. We went to Bitcoin mining, photography. So a lot of these taught me what I know today, okay? And I'm really glad for that. At that point in time, when you fail, it's the hardest thing, right? Many people focus on success, but many forget to manage the failures. And that's one of the biggest hidden things. If you want to succeed, manage your failures. It doesn't really make sense because everyone just focuses on their success. But if you want to succeed, focus on your failures, okay? And when you fail, the successful ones tend to use it as a lesson, okay? Figuring that lesson out sometimes isn't that easy because when your ego is bruised and you're swimming in disappointment, thinking it's a lesson is one of the furthest things on earth. But when everything settles, when the dust settles, and when you actually are in a mindset to actually learn, you actually learn a lot. So your next business venture is when it finally takes off, right? So one of the things that, one of my biggest learning curves, aka my biggest failures, came in the form of this company called MHL, Modern Home and Living, right? So Modern Home and Living had a great team. I had great business partners. We had a great team. And to this day, I still believe in it. So let me share with you a little story, okay? So MHL was a huge entertainment platform. This was one of the most ambitious things that I started in my career. So MHL was a print magazine. So MHL was a celebrity home and lifestyle magazine. Because of my career, I started doing a lot of celebrities. I partnered up with several different business partners from all different facets. And we came together to start this really big company. We had a very big vision. Okay? Our vision was taking high-end designer lifestyle and celebrity living into the mass market. At that point in time, there weren't a lot of magazines like that. The only brands out there were Architecture Digest and Vogue Living. And if you know these magazines, they were pretty high-end. So MHL was a huge 360 model, which, as I share with you, it was a very brilliant platform. So aside from print, we were also on every electronic platform available. We had pending TV shows. So we were rivaling big networks. Networks were waiting to sign us different deals for the platform. So the content from the magazine would translate to online, would translate to these TV shows on these different networks as well. We had access to some of the biggest celebrities in this world, right? And not just different celebrities, we had celebrities in their natural habitat. How often do you actually see that? What we tried to do was to get the celebrities and their interior designers and their inspirations to talk about things that were in their home, open up. Have you guys seen MTV Cribs? Do you guys know what MTV Cribs is? So MTV Cribs goes through the house very, very quickly. They don't really show you where everything is like sold. So our concept was to slow everything down and push it as more of a marketing device. So an educational and marketing device. So as we would go through these different homes, right, Tom Cruise would be talking about his marble table and its inspiration from it. We'd bring in his interior designer to tell you how to achieve that, and we'll try to tell you how to achieve that on a mass level budget. So people like you and me are now able to afford certain things, but to use that as inspiration, right? So one of the big things was a lot of the exclusive video content. So every photo shoot that we did, we would also shoot a lot of exclusive video content in the back end. So we had a lot of content. So as an entertainment industry, as an entertainment company, we had a lot of different assets. One of the things that we decided to go into was MHL products as well. So on top of just the TV show, when everything that was in the TV show was product placed, and it was our own products. So it was every home product from like home, bathroom, chairs, you name it, we made money on it. The next thing that we did was we had our penthouse. So developers we would start making deals with these different developers, and developers would start giving us these multi-million-dollar penthouse in exchange for marketing. So what does that mean? Because these different penthouses were hard to sell, and Penthouses, obviously, like $5 to $50 million penthouses, attract a very certain level of demographics, right? So the level of clientele that we could bring in through our publication because of the celebrity, they could have the buying power and the taste to purchase these different penthouse or the different units below. So developers would work deals out with us to bring different people up. And because we were a home celebrity publication, we were able to deck this entire place out designer for very low cost and be able to make money off of it as well. So that was itself is a huge hidden business model. One of the other things we did was MHL events. We were part of the Grammy suite. We threw different parties, Lindsay Lohan down to like the Black Eyed Peas, like was celebrity studded. So this was a huge vehicle that was meant to take off. But what happened was we launched it at the cusp of the economic downturn. How were we to predict, right? At that point in time, I think we had put a lot of money into it, but unfortunately, luxury was the first to get cut. Entertainment, celebrities are considered a luxury lifestyle, right? So when economy goes into a downturn, one of the things that gets cut first is always your luxury line because people don't really need it. They can survive without it, right? Print was declining at that point of time. E-platforms were just coming up and the whole industry was in a weird state of flux. No one really knew where things were going. So no one really had the confidence to put money in a certain direction. Unfortunately, I think me and my team were also a little bit too inexperienced to capitalize on the downturn. But I was actually glad it happened because it actually taught me a lot. Through this entire thing, we learned fundraising. We actually flew up to Silicon Valley, pitched to a lot of investors, and we got to know that process. And I think that process made a huge difference in my future career because now I knew that process, right? Through this entire Modern Home and Living, I've also made huge amount of business contacts. But one of the hardest things was failing. When you fail, it's hard to get up again, right? We lost a lot of money. I personally lost. When we first started the company, all the partners put in initial seed capital. And all that, when the company went down, we all kind of lost that. So we were reeling from a lack of confidence, number one. Bank accounts were massively overdrawn. Everything was put on credit cards. At that point in time, this was a lesson that I had to learn as well. Now, going back, I may not have done the same thing, but at least because I had gone through it once, I knew. I think these were like the dark years in my life. At this point of time, I was probably more broke than when I first went to the US, when I first started, and that was a really hard thing to do. So I was reeling from a massive lack of confidence. But one of the biggest things was I started looking for hidden opportunities after that. Okay, so let me share that story. So getting back up was very hard, okay? So when you fail, it's like a breakup, right? When you put so much time and energy into one thing, and when it doesn't work out, you go into a slump. It takes a big push for you to get up again. So back to the same thing. Success is going to failure without loss of enthusiasm. It's easier said than done, but once you learn that that happens, then you're better off for it because then you can keep pushing forward, okay? So one of the things that I've learned is growth happens outside of your comfort zone. Have you guys heard this before? All right? And this is absolutely crucial as well. Because when you stay in your comfort zone and your little bubble, you don't really grow. When you get outside of your comfort zone, and that's when you feel the most uncomfortable, that's when something starts to happen, when new opportunities start coming your way, okay? So this was the quote I had earlier on. Success consists of going from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. Learn this lesson, because when you do, you're going to be so much better for it. So good opportunities rarely happen in plain sight. So one of the things that happened after MHL was I started working on a project with Google. I totally stumbled upon this, not that smart. But when I was getting back on my feet, I devoured business books and focused on company infrastructures, especially ecosystems, right? This was me building up my self-confidence, building up my money reserves. I went to hiatus for a while and started building up again. I researched huge companies and broke apart their ecosystems, right? So Richard Branson and his Virgin Group became a huge obsession of mine. I spent a lot of time and just broke up the companies. One of the things I did was to train myself to look into hidden opportunities, okay? Hidden opportunities within company structures. I'll explain what I meant. So this is not my ecosystem, but this is an example of what an ecosystem is. And I found I was rather good at this. I found that I had a good knack of visualizing ecosystems, but also figuring out how revenue was made between industry segments. Don't ask me what that all means, but I was really good at it, okay? So I started to make other people money, and people saw that, and I started working with more and more companies. This was my growth outside of my comfort zone. Keep in mind, this is me. I started as a simple little photographer and growing into doing a lot of big business, right? So working with the team, I think validated my self-confidence and got me up and running once again. So one of the things that now my new skill set was finding hidden businesses, hidden opportunities, sorry. So this is what I started looking for, okay? So opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looked like work. So what normally happens is opportunities are very, very plain. To capitalize on it, sometimes most people don't even see it. Plus it's hard work, so many people just miss it altogether. Okay, so let's play a game. What do you see? Right? So this guy, Mayor Luskin, right, made $1 billion company turning stale bread that you saw earlier on into animal feed. His company, Reconserve, turns over 120 million annually, all from stale bread. See? So what do you see? What is this? Capture. So this is the really annoying thing when you have to type the security the security thing just to verify that you're not a robot, right, or a computer. So this guy, Louis von Ahn, repurposed CAPTCHA, right, into this new company called reCAPTCHA. So in the world, there are a lot of old books and newspapers that are being digitized. So they're being scanned. Do you guys know what OCR is, optical character recognition? So occasionally when you scan certain things, words don't come out as clear as they should. So what happens is they use us as human batteries to power the system. So we, as we're providing security for systems, we're also translating books for old books for everyone else, right? What a genius. Okay, so let's continue this game. What do you guys see? So toilet bathrooms. What do you guys see? Just a regular bus, handles, airplane window, benches, nothing out of the ordinary, right? Things we see every single day. So this is my company, the Lumenere Group, and this is what we saw. We saw an opportunity. When we saw bathroom mirrors, we partnered up with a company that developed a technology that could serve advertising in mirrors. When it's off, it becomes a full mirror. When it's on, the digital displays show up, and it's all proximity sensor based. So we started finding hidden opportunities in media spaces. So this is what my company did. So bus handles, right? We saw it as media spaces. Normal media spaces are oversaturated. Billboards, stuff you see in malls, these are very common. And those were all taken and spoken for by the big companies. So my company specialized in finding these little hidden niches and actually making a lot of money off of it. So airplane windows for product demo break glass. Do you guys know what Hoover is? Hoover is a brand of really strong vacuum cleaners. So what happens when you break this? It sucks, right? So it's really smart. So now we were able to offer all these media spaces to our new, to these advertising companies that we were partnered with. These little benches, right? So a lot of ad companies we found always want to do these really creative things, but they don't also have the time to go out to source all these media spaces. So at my company, what we started to do is to take these opportunities to these media companies, to these ad agencies. we would partner up with them instead of compete with them. I think that's the biggest strategy that is different. A lot of people think of competing. I don't see anyone as competitors. At the end of the day, I try to sort of partner up with everyone and to find that niche that where we can work together. Okay? So one of the things that we started to do is finding spaces in malls. So we had big contracts with different malls to do it. And then we started doing private spaces. So if you had a private penthouse or unused or a house, we did different events there. We had a lot of different initiatives for depending on what type of space that you had. Okay? So entrepreneurs are simply those who understand that there's little difference between obstacle and opportunity and are able to turn both to the advantage. This is what we did. Okay, so in 2012, when the economy started picking up again, I was looking for a new adventure. And at that point in time, I heard that Asia was booming. After several trips to Asia, I decided to expand into Asia. Okay? One of the things that I did before I started to move was to spring clean my life. Okay? As you guys know, through life, you end up picking up a lot of stuff. Right? So moving from the US down to Singapore was really hard. I couldn't take that much boxes. I could, it would just be really, really expensive, right? So I started scaling down my life. So I started just getting rid of little bits and things. Soon my car was gone, my house was gone, a lot of my equipment was gone, and I didn't know it then, but I loved it. It was such a great feeling. The fact that you have less things weighing on you, my soul felt so much lighter, and I was actually really happy for that. One of the things that I realized after that was less is more. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite, right? I'm not going to say that I don't love the big things in life. I totally do, but I'm at least more aware of it now. But I'm also aware of the concept that less is more. Now I know what the religious views say about, you know, being free of attachments, and this is what it is. So now I'm able to travel the world and not be stuck to a certain place because I had this whole bunch of stuff, right? I'm a lot happier nowadays as well. It's counterintuitive, but trust me, it works, okay? So, have you guys heard of the 80-20 rule? Okay? So the 80-20 rule is also known as the Pareto principle, okay? The Pareto principle states that 80% of your effects comes from 20% of your causes. So what does this mean? It means 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients, right? So what does this teach us? Do less, accomplish more, right? Sometimes all of us have those nightmare clients that sometimes we don't want to deal with. Cut them out, because 20%, if you scale down, those are actually where your profits are coming from. That little 20% doesn't make a difference. It's only just going to give you extra stress. Okay? So in terms of doing less and accomplishing more, you can even start businesses or companies around it. Look at these guys. It's a sink built into a cistern, right? So it's eco-friendly, it saves space, but it's such a genius idea, right? You're doing less but accomplishing a lot more. Look at this, the water wall. So a water wall is a wall that's fit in between your windows, right? As the sun heats it up, you use that as a heater. It's almost like solar, but it's a lot more direct. Imagine, Singapore, we have so much sun. How much energy would this save, right? So once again, doing less, accomplishing more, okay? So one of the stories, I know I'm slightly running out of time. So one of the things that I'm going to teach you today is the story of David and Goliath. I'm sure you guys, most of you have heard this story before, right? So, but I think that you may be looking at it wrong. So let me tell you the story again, okay? So 3,000 years ago, in the kingdom of Israel, there was a land dispute. So back in the days, there was this thing called single combat. So single combat was a way of fighting or settling disputes without major bloodshed or war, okay? So both sides were supposed to send their biggest fighters to sort of deck it out. So one side sent this huge giant. He was 6'9", covered with bronze. He was absolutely terrifying with a sword and a spear, and that was who they sent. The other side, because they were terrified, no one wanted to step forward. But after a while, one little guy came forward. He was a little shepherd boy, and he said, you know, I'll fight. Everyone kind of laughed at him at that point in time and said, no, you're like a little boy, that's not possible, right? So, but he said, no, let me fight. He was very insistent. He kept going forward and said that I fend off wolves and lions all day because I herd my sheep. I think I can do it. But at that point in time, because there wasn't any other options, they said, go ahead. Okay? So the giant and the shepherd boy faced off in this wide open valley. And so what happened was, as the giant started lumbering towards the boy, right? I'm sure you guys heard this story, so I'm going to go a little faster. The boy took out a tiny little stone from his pocket, put it into a sling, whisked it around, and let it fly. That little stone hit the giant in between the eyes. He died, ran up, cut his head off, right? So that's the story that you guys have all heard, right? But one of the things that you guys didn't hear is that, so David's supposed to be the underdog, right? So why is David the underdog? Because the giant, whose name is Goliath, by the way, and David was the boy. So why was David the underdog? Do you guys know why? Okay, so David was supposed to be the underdog because Goliath was big and strong with massive armor, and David was the small little shepherd boy. The giant Goliath had a massive sword, and David had a little staff, and all he had was a little sling. And so I think that's where the biggest mistake is. All he had was his little sling, right? So keep in mind, this sling is actually a very deadly weapon. So what happens when a sling is being twirled at 5, 6, 7 revolutions a second, what happens is that stone flies at about 35 meters per second, right? And in the valley where they faced off, those stones were actually made out of barium sulfate. So it has twice the density of a normal rock. Okay, so what happens is, if you're into ballistics and you know the math, what happens is the stone actually flies at the speed of a .45 caliber handgun. So that's actually really strong. So fast forward, what I'm trying to get at is that smaller companies, smaller things aren't always bad, okay? Use that to your strength. Goliath's massive size, right, was actually his failure, his weakness. So if smaller companies are able to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are and play on those strengths and figure out what your opponent's weaknesses are, it's okay. Because that's the exact same thing I did for my company. So my company, the Lumenere Group, one of the things I started in Singapore was an entertainment arm. We did celebrity acquisitions. And my vision for Lumenere was to keep it small and nimble. Why is that? So we were faster, we had less red tape, we were able to move a lot quicker than the bigger companies. We didn't have to like jump through so much stuff. Our waiting period, because it was just a small team of like 5 or 6, we could move very, very quick. So one of the things that I found hidden in Asia was that these different celebrity clients of ours were hidden behind many layers of commission, right? So this is my new favorite word, disintermediation. It's cutting out the middleman, okay? So in my industry, these celebs in Asia would be marketed up to about, the profit margin was like 800%. That's like the markup. Sometimes these agents would make more money than the celebs themselves. So because of my relationships of the previous businesses that I've done, what I was able to do was cut out a lot of the business, the middleman. So one of the things that I started doing was going to the artist management direct, and those savings would go directly to my clients. So the next couple of projects that I'm doing is with Emma Stone. We have Johnny Depp, Lord, Al Pacino, Far East Movement, and Mark. That was a very shameless plug, by the way. But if you guys are looking for any celebs, let me know. So not bad for a company that's been in Asia for 8 months. I think we're doing a lot of big projects. So I started with my why, and so I want to end with my why. This is what my company believes in, and this is what I'm trying to change here in Asia. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for your time. We're just going to enter a little bit of Q&A, so stay around. we wish we had more time to go through your amazing experiences, but it's a Friday morning, so we're just going to keep it to 2 questions. Anyone from the audience? Usually everyone asks the questions, and the guest speaker is like inundated. Do you have one? Oh, hold on, I'm just going to pass you the mic.
For the Lumenere Foundation, the James Cameron project, the Muse project,
Yep.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So as a byproduct of all the commercial work I do, one of the things that I insist on is doing good, right? Taking our company profits and reinvesting it in different campaigns every single year. So we partner up. This year we're doing something with Earth Hour. Last year I did something with the Red Cross. I do something with WWF. So we sort of supplement different things. So I partner up with different companies. So back in the US, I started working with like the David Lynch Foundation. We did something with James Cameron, and his wife Susie Cameron has this school called Muse. So what we did was they had a big screening that showed Avatar. Do you guys remember the movie Avatar? And this was before Avatar was even launched. So they did like a huge fundraiser. They showed parts of Avatar when it was incomplete with all the wires and stuff like that, and a lot of people paid to go for it. So we were kind of involved and helped them out with that. And there were a lot of these little hidden opportunities that I love, because someone like a James Cameron has the assets already, doesn't really have to go out of his way to do anything, and it's a pre-screening that a lot of people are interested in, right? Whether you're a competitor, whether you're a high net worth individual that wanted just the access of seeing all the new technology. And it was amazing, just seeing what Avatar was like before it was launched. I think it was like a year before it was launched, and everything was still incomplete. You could see the different wires as they were jumping. I mean, I'm a huge movie fan, so being able to see all that itself, that was my payoff, you know?
Cool, thank you for that question. Please put your hands together for Kevin. Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you.